scenario. In 3, 2, 1.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Cinema Chad. I am Chadwick Webb, and today I'm bringing you my top 10 movies of 2025. I haven't seen all the 2025 films that I should have seen. I'm not someone who gets out to the theater as much as I can. I plan to change that in 2026. But in 2025, there's a lot that slipped under the radar, or I just was not able to catch in the theater and haven't gotten around to them on streaming if they are on streaming. So a lot of January 2026 is going to be me trying to catch up. So that doesn't mean that if there's a specific movie that's not on my list that I don't like or doesn't deserve to be in my top 10, there's probably going to be some things that I see after making this video that I'm going to go back and be like, nope. In a month's time, this list might be very different. I'm not sure. And I may actually make an updated part 2 version of this list, or maybe even do a top 20 revised a few months into 2026, just looking back at 2025 after I've seen more movies. Like there's certain movies like Train Dreams and Begonia and just a lot of other movies that I just haven't gotten around to that might be my thing. I don't know. Maybe I don't like them. I don't know. We'll have to find out. Sentimental value. It was just an accident. There's a lot of like best picture hopefuls that I still haven't seen. So that being said, I think it's time that I get into my list, my top 10 of 2025. All right. So originally, this movie wasn't in my top 10, and then the more I thought about it, the more I decided that this movie's kind of special, and I've seen it a couple times now, and it makes me laugh every time. This new edition of The Naked Gun, directed by Akiva Schaffer, starring Liam Neeson and Pam Anderson. I don't know, there's just something about this movie where I feel like the jokes are just so kind of nonstop and just so silly and slapstick and just, parody based that it feels like it's recapturing kind of like a movement. Like I didn't love the era of like 2000s style parody movies. I'm not like a big fan of a lot of those. Going back all the way to like the 80s and stuff when Airplane was coming out, I think that was the height of it, and this is kind of recapturing that era of spoof film. This movie I think taps into that, where it like kind of makes fun of the police and makes fun of situations and makes fun of like tropes of like big villainous people, like your rich people that just want to like in the world and just hide all of their friends in a shelter because screw everyone, and just like making fun of a lot of different tropes in other movies and things like that. This one just has so many great jokes in it, and also just brilliant performances. Like it's great to see like the trajectory of someone like Liam Neeson, like the same as like Leslie Nielsen, where it's like they have similar names and they both kind of like started in doing serious movies. Liam Neeson was like in Schindler's List, and now he's doing The Naked Gun. And, Leslie Nielsen was in serious movies, and then he started doing a lot of the spoof parody type movies and is great in them. So it's fun to see like that mirror happen and to see Liam Neeson like nail it. And then also to see like Pam Anderson doing her like, serious actress thing after her former career, coming out and trying to do something different, not just with her serious acting career, but also doing something as silly as The Naked Gun. Not only that, but like being just as funny as Liam Neeson is in the movie. And I think their team and their chemistry in the movie is just really something that makes me really like watching this. I don't think like a lot of parody movies, the jokes get a little bit tiring. I don't think they do here. I think this one's incredible. My number 9 is something that I saw at the beginning of the year at Sundance. It was my favorite thing that I saw at Sundance in 2025, and not that I went to Sundance, but I did Sundance online. And I saw this, and it blew me away. And I was like, I don't know if this is something that I'm going to remember at the end of the year, but it is. Ava Victor, I think, is going to be like a name that you're going to have to pay attention to going forward because she directed and starred in this movie. And it's a movie that is able to balance something as serious as sexual assault to a level that is both very dramatic and heartfelt, but also surprisingly funny. The movie doesn't take itself too seriously in a lot of ways because the character is very eccentric, but also when it has to be serious about a topic such as sexual assault, it handles it really well, and it has a lot to say about relationships and seeing red flags and taking things like sexual assault seriously, how wrong it is, how to treat someone who has experienced sexual assault. And I just like, all of that. Also coming from like a woman's perspective, I think it really has a lot of humanity in it, and just a lot of really great speeches. It's really funny, yeah. And I just think that this is something that if you haven't seen it, you should check it out because I know a lot of people have slowly started to come on board the Sorry Baby train, and I'm definitely have been there since the beginning. So that's my number 9. My number 8 is something that I haven't seen again, and I know a lot of people are really, really hyping it up as like one of the best movies of the year, which is and isn't surprising for me, because I remember thinking this was a damn good horror movie when I saw it, but since I haven't been like as high as I was when I first saw it, Zach Kreger, I know him from The Whitest Kids You Know. I think is a really great director. I never saw that coming. I always thought he was funny in that show, and then he gave us Barbarian, and then now he gave us Weapons. It honestly just feels like he's just a great director, a great horror director, and he just is able to come up with these like fascinating concepts. And not only that, but he nails them. It's like when you have like a burgeoning director that just keeps giving you really solid, interesting movies that are just original. It's just great to have someone like that, Kreger, and he also doesn't take himself too seriously or anything. So I love seeing what he comes up with, and I'm excited to see what he comes up with next. But Weapons, I think, is just a really interesting movie. I love its format. It kind of has that Rashomon vibe to it, where it tells you the story from different perspectives. So you see the parts before you see like the whole, and you really understand what's going on. And I love how it strings you along until you finally start going, "Oh my god, okay, that's what's going on." And so, the mystery is good. I think the performances are good, and it just really like, the scares. It really had me shielding my eyes, because I often will do that during horror movies if I think they're actually scary. Weapons really did that for me, and I just think it's a really fun movie. Weapons is a good time. I'm excited to rewatch it. This one is fascinating because I have a love-hate relationship with James Gunn. Not I don't hate him, but like when I say that, I mean I love some things that he does, but then he's has other tendencies that I don't like. Like I love the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. I think those are some of the best superhero movies of all time, and they just hit me at such a special place, especially like the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas episode is like one of my favorite Christmas things of all time. But then when he comes out with certain things, kind of like the Suicide Squad, that I liked, but he goes more in depth into his like vulgar side, and he's doing a lot of that stuff. Doesn't always vibe with me, you know. So there's certain things, and like some of his humor, sometimes I'm just like wondering, is it going to fit with the character? And so I was like kind of nervous going into Superman, hoping that he was going to get this character right. Like this character is like, you know, he's not like silly, he's not, you know, of course he's not vulgar. He's like, you know, one of the most like authentic characters. So I was really interested to see how they were going to do this, and I think he nailed it, honestly. I know a lot of people have issues with the character and how some of the characters are portrayed in the movie. But for me, it all worked because I think it got down to what Superman is. And Superman is someone who puts others before him and puts this idea of not that you can save everyone, but that when given a choice, you're always going to choose to save someone, even if it goes against the rules, even if it's not in you know the best interest of someone who has a lot of power, or I don't know, even when you know it's you're fighting a villain who is harming someone, still maybe you can, you know, if you have to, you know, kill this big monster, maybe you can do it in the most humane way possible. And just like the idea of just having compassion, and how this movie is wrapped up in showing that your family is not always the people that are blood related to you, and sometimes it's, you know, the family that you found. And I don't know, there's just a lot of themes in this that I just thought were brilliant and just made me feel a lot. And so I just really loved Superman. I really vibed with this one. So if you don't know about me, I'm a huge Tim Robinson fan. I just I think You Should Leave is maybe the funniest show I've ever seen in my life. And that's saying something. I like a lot of funny shows. I like comedies. So, you know, seeing I Think You Should Leave being like this subversive kind of situational comedy that's just about, you know, making like the kind of worst characters that are just like so bad that you be like, I think you should leave. Like you're bad, and then you just keep making it worse, kind of a thing. It's a little bit like a Curb Your Enthusiasm, Larry David style, but different. Like I like both, but I like how Tim Robinson's is different, but it's kind of a play on that kind of concept, and how it's not just like one character in a bunch of different situations, but it's like different characters and very specific situations. Friendship is the movie version of that. Friendship is, how can you take this character that has issues, has a lot of red flags about him, but how do you take that character, make him the main character, and make you kind of like feel for him to where you almost feel sorry for him when he does things that are a little bit unsavory, or does things that are a little bit, you know, cringe or off-putting, or just downright wrong, and, you know, kind of like not what a friend would do. But also you kind of feel bad because he's put in a situation to where, you know, when you are kind of alienated from what you think is a friend group, and you have trouble making friends as it is, like, you know, what does it mean to have male friendship? And what do you do when you make a mistake and then you get alienated? And I feel like a lot of the times the movies don't focus on, stories don't focus on the outcast, the one who is ignored and ghosted because they're weird or they do something kind of off-putting. And I love how this explores that in a very funny way. I think the writing of this is incredible, and really, just Friendship is just such a fun movie, especially if you watch it with a friend who also likes Tim Robinson's style of humor. I know he's not for everyone, but I really, 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 really love Friendship. My number 5 is probably a movie that most people have as their number ones, or a lot of people have as their number ones, because this movie is incredible. And I still feel weird putting it at number five. I think if I give it a third watch, I'll probably will bump it up. And I think Sinners is incredible. I love horror. I love Ryan Coogler, Michael B. Jordan. I think they have one of the best like pairings of all time. And yeah, I just think they're both really incredible. And they were able to craft like just a really phenomenal horror movie. It's like a period piece, but also like a vampire movie. And it just meshes so well to like, talk more about like the Black experience. Like, we get in a lot of Ryan Coogler movies from like different aspects and different perspectives. Yeah, it's no different here. Just like, seeing a group of African American people in the South trying to create a space for themselves, and how that suddenly starts to get like exploited, and maybe not exploited, but like taken over or threatened by more than one villain. I'll say, yeah, it's just a damn well-made horror movie, and it just has a lot of great technical stuff with it, as well as writing and acting and everything. And this one is one that I would not be surprised if it won Best Picture. I mean, it's pretty much a lock for a nomination, and I would not be mad at it if it did win Best Picture, because I just think it's so good. Especially that one scene. You know the one I'm talking about, with the transcending time and reality and all that via music, and it's just so beautiful. So yeah, this damn good movie. Love Sinners. My number four is one that I didn't expect to like as much as I did. And it wasn't until like the very end that I was like, my mind was blown, and I was like, oh my God, am I really loving this as much as I didn't think I might? And I adore the first movie. I think Zootopia is a great movie, and what it talks about, like, implicit bias and just like othering people and things like that. It has a lot of great things to say about like how we treat people in society and stuff, and just the animation and the concepts and the world building and just everything is just so good in that first movie that I just did not think that they could keep it up and top it. I mean, Disney doesn't often do, or I should say Disney Pixar doesn't often do brilliant sequels unless it's a Toy Story movie. And here I think they nailed it. I think they found a way to talk about like the immigrant experience and friendship and bonds and just all of these different things on another level, kind of very similar to what the first movie did, and how this Zootopia 2 made me cry. It was like one of the few movies in 2025 that actually got to me on that level and makes me cry. Okay, there's quite a few actually that did that to me, but Zootopia 2 really hit me. I love the animation. I love the added world building. I love the score. I love the soundtrack. I'm always playing the song Zoo for my son, and we're dancing to it all the time. Zootopia 2, I think, is really, really a spectacular film. My favorite animated film of the year, and that's, in a year where K-pop Demon Hunters is, mega popular. I also like that movie, but I just think Zootopia 2 is just so next level that I really loved it. And my number three is one that I thought might end up being my number one. And it's the Mike Flanagan movie, The Life of Chuck. It's always amazing when I have something like Mike Flanagan and somebody like Stephen King converging to create something that I love. And it happened with, Dr. Sleep and Gerald's Game, and now it's happening with The Life of Chuck. And I think this movie is really incredible. I think it just really gets to the idea of what makes a person, what makes just one person, and what goes into making a person, and what is the value of a single person. And I love how it explores that, explores the idea that people are multitudes, and you can have like an entire universe inside of one person. Like that's how valuable and special like one like brain is, and one personality of a single human being. And once that person is gone, we don't know what happens when you die, but we do know that, something special, either it's gone or it transitions or something, but we no longer see it on this plane of existence. And as sad as that is, it's also just very happy because, you see just how special every person is, and how every person has value, no matter what you do or who you are. You have value. You see things and you take in things and you experience the world in a way that no one else does. And how you are so unique and you're so worth everything. And, to trivialize that and to take the life of one person away is so monumental. And I love how this movie explores that. This movie cherishes life and just, talks about how precious it is. I think this movie is just really incredible, and I love it. And I think it deserves more. I think it deserves to be more in the conversation than it is. At one point, it like won, awards at a festival, and then it was like, is this going to be nominated for Best Picture in 2024? And then it got pushed to 2025. And then now it's not even really in the conversation for Best Picture at all. And I think that's really sad because I think this is one of the best movies of the year. And my number two is a movie that I didn't know if I would like. I had heard it had something to do with child harm and things like that. So I will say, if you don't want spoilers, I'm gonna have to like talk about spoilers here for Hamnet. If you haven't seen that, I'm gonna put chapter stuff in there. Skip to the my number one movie of the year if you don't want to hear about Hamnet, because I know there's some spoilers in there if you want to go in blind. But I will say this movie is really sad. I know it's like the big cry movie that everyone says you're really gonna cry at this movie. Bring your tissues. But for me, not only did I cry, but like it just gave me so much anxiety because seeing someone like a child pass away in the way that it happens in this movie, and then seeing the grief of the parents and how, there's something, beautiful about someone taking their grief and making good art with it and expressing that grief so everyone else can feel it around you. I think there's something beautiful about that. But through all of that, there's so much anxiety just thinking about myself being a parent, myself thinking about something bad happening to my child, and just how, I don't even know if I would be able to function in a world like that. But also just thinking about like the catharsis that, good art can bring, and how good art can be a healing venture and healing process. And so, yeah, this movie will devastate you, but then also kind of leave you on sort of a hopeful, happy note, which I think is handled so well. I think Chloe Zhao, Jesse Buckley, Paul Mescal are just all so good in this. And you got the brothers Noah Jupe and Jacoby Jupe. That'll just like when you see them both in the movie, you're just gonna your head's gonna spin like, oh my god, they look so alike that it's just, it's really cool to see how they use that in the movie as well. So Hamnet, it's crushing, but it's damn good. And my number one movie of the year, at least so far, we'll see. It hasn't been topped yet, is Paul Thomas Anderson's One Battle After Another. Honestly, there's a lot of movies that come close to the quality of this. I think this movie is just freaking perfect. I think other movies in this year are perfect. My number two, my number three, number four, even my number five, I think are just perfect. But like, there's just something about this movie coming out in 2025 and being the movie that just talks about the current political system that we're in, how people who look a certain way are not seen as valuable, and just how there's just a rich desire for change, or like someone standing up to powerful interests that might not be in the best interest of people in this country who just want to see compassion win, and stuff. So to see a movie about like revolutionaries who are maybe not going about things in the best way, but like ultimately all have the best intentions on helping people, to see a story about that, and a story about how when you do things the wrong way, like, the past can come back to haunt you, but really fighting for the country that you want to see is something special, and is something that can transcend generations, and that it's one battle after another. You're never going to stop fighting for the thing you believe in. And I think that can relate to anyone, not just in 2025. I mean, there's so many civil rights and things that people have had to fight for decades, centuries, and yet we're still here fighting for something that we believe in. And that's true for literally everyone. Even if you disagree entirely with someone else, that other person is still fighting for something they believe in. But here I think the morals are very specific. I think it's just masterfully shot, masterfully acted. It's just one of the damn best movies of the decade, I think. It's just, if I have to put something number one for 2025, it can't be anything else. This one is the most 2025 movie, and it's my favorite movie of the year. Yeah, that was my top 10 of 2025. It's probably going to change as I see more movies, and I'm excited to maybe do another go around and tell you how things have updated. But I'm also excited to get into 2026. So a lot of movies that are probably going to come out that I'm going to love. So very excited to keep this process going. This creating lists is also one battle after another. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you think. What do you think about my ranking? What are your rankings of the best films of the year? What are you excited for in 2026? If you like this video, please give me a like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.